So back in 1998, I took a vacation, and I was trying to take a vacation, but I didn't want to spend a lot of money, and diving's kind of an expensive sport. So I took a job on a dive boat, and over the period of a couple months ended up in this small village on this island, and they had just outstanding diving and right out in front of their village. And to dive there, you have to get permission from the chief of the village. So I ended up with the crew. We went in and asked for permission, and that's how I ended up in that village. And then every week we'd go back and go diving in this village and do a village visit, and got to know the people in it. Yeah, the name of the village is Nacamaki, and it's on Coral Island. It's on the northeast corner of Coral Island in the Loma Viti group of the Fiji Islands. So I kept going back every year or two and visiting Fiji. It's just one of my favorite places. The people are just fantastic. They're they say they're the friendliest people on the planet, and they really are. They're always happy. They don't have anything, but whatever they've got, they'll give you.
The islands of Fiji in the South Pacific are being battered by the strongest storm ever recorded there.
Cyclone Winston is now the strongest cyclone ever observed in the Southern Hemisphere.
When I heard the waves is coming, I said, I think now it's the time. I think about myself, I'm old. Then I tell my child, my granddaughter and grandson, and say, Lisa, I think it's the time for us. I think we are going to leave each other because I'm old and you are young.
Older people, we stand at the door there and see all the houses full, washed, concrete houses. This is maybe the last day. That's what comes to my mind.
It pretty much either damaged or destroyed every building that was there. And so going back and seeing what had happened, and they live by subsistence, so they don't have a whole lot. And I just thought, there's got to be something I can do to help, and that's what started the whole thing. So mostly friends and people from Ketchikan or here in Alaska, and then also what we did is I reached out to a lot of the people that had been on the boat back in '98 when we went to the village, and they remembered, and a lot of them donated too. So the first year we were able to do a good amount of materials, and that's how we started the whole thing off, was with donations and then the people going. So we all meet up in LA. So wherever they're coming from, we all meet in LA to fly down. And then from LA, it's 10.5 hours to Nandi. And then we normally have an hour and a half to 2 hours in Nandi. And then we fly across the island to Suva/Nassori Airport. And then we have about an hour there. And then it's about a 35, 40-minute flight to the island. And so the planes get smaller as we're heading towards the island. The last flight is on a Twin Otter, and the max we can take is 14 people. So that's as big as the group can be. And then once we get to the island, You land on a runway that has about an 8% grade.
The airstrip in Coral Island is a trip. It's just basically this long grass runway that goes uphill. So when you land on grass and you just go uphill. And then when you take off, they take off the other way. They take off downhill and then just whoo, take off right before the beach. It's wild.
So then we get out there, unload everything, and they show up with a, I think it's a 2.5 ton truck. There's like 4 of them on the island, and that's your bus, taxi, transport for whatever is being moved. But we throw everything in there, all of our gear, everybody climbs into the back of it, and then we head to the village, and that's about a about 35
30-ish minute, yeah.
30, 40 minute drive to the village.
1.5 lane dirt road.
That's if everything goes perfect.
Yeah.
We've had some situations where it didn't.
Yeah, we didn't get the last flight coming in.
Yeah.
In 22, we took a boat from the school, just an open boat that was supposed to be like an hour, I think.
2 hours. Yeah.
2 hours, yeah.
So it's about 30 miles. So one time we made it to Nassori, and they canceled the plane on us. So we ended up taking a boat out. We hired a boat, twin engine, 30-something footer, threw all of our gear in, headed out, and it was a little choppy.
So we got there. Weather kept us from being able to get to the island, and because Sam Romey doesn't know how to just say, well, I give up. He hires somebody to take us out in like a personal size boat, like maybe a 21-foot boat or something. Rusty Anderson from Rendezvous had donated like 100 raincoats from one of the tour shops. They had donated in Rendezvous. Rusty donated them to Fiji. So we had in this little boat all of this stuff that we're bringing with us. I told you the flight was canceled because of weather. Same weather. We're just now in a boat. So I put on the raincoats, and because I thought we were going to be in a plane. So anyway, we head off, and it should have been a 2-hour run, and it was 8. And we are filling up the fuel tanks on the run. You can't even turn it off because the waves are so high. You can't. So like on the run, we're there filling up things. I have my life jacket like around my feet. I know we're going over. And I'm looking at the other 4 people, and it's Nate Sievertson, young guy. He's probably 33 at the time. And I'm like, okay, we're gonna capsize. He's fine. And then Buffy and Mike Shevelin, they were going. They're both former Coast Guard. So I'm like, I don't have to worry about them. So I'm like, okay, when it capsizes, I can't even tell which way to swim because it's just storms and fog and oh, it was so scary. And then we have this giant mountain of stuff that we're bringing. You know, when you're doing 25 miles an hour and you don't have rain gear and all that, and you're in an open skiff, it got a little choppy, and there was some grumbling. Talking about killing people, throwing them overboard. Mostly me being thrown overboard.
Pretty sure Dinah was ready to stab him if she got the chance.
But it ended up taking what? How many hours?
6?
Yeah,
I think it was 6 when we got there, and then it was another like 45 minutes messing around out front trying to get anchored somewhere to get out because it was all just concrete, like the foundations and rebar underneath. Yeah, they fouled the anchor in one of the old houses, and then they couldn't get the line out. And so a guy from the village came out and free dove down on it and got it undone. But that took another hour or so. Yeah. Well, it wasn't too bad. A lot of people didn't like it, though.
Yeah. There's now ferries that run. It was just once a week, but now they're running twice a week. So that makes it much easier to get on and off the island. He met half a dozen times before each trip with the village elders, the men,
just making sure, two things. One, that everybody's on board with what we're doing. We're not trying to take over and tell you what you need. You tell us what you need and we can make it work. And then two, he was really, really good about making sure that they brought something to the table. He really laid out, okay, we're gonna do this is what you want. We're gonna do this, you've gotta do this. We're gonna put up solar panels. Everybody needs to buy a battery. They're $300. But on subsistence, like money is, where does that come from? So $300, it's a lot for a year, but you have to want it. It was a tremendous amount of work the first week, but it was easy to do because Sam laid everything out. Everything was organized. He just said, write your check for this much and show up in LA and we'll get this done. And holy cow, we did. So
I don't think there was much of a pitch. It was, he just basically told me what was going on, and yeah, it sounded awesome. Right from the get-go, I wanted to be a part of it. I had a pretty good background because I'd, been hearing about Fiji for years and the foundation, and it was inspiring, and then when it looked like I was going to be going, it was just out of this world. I didn't really have, I was in a pretty bad place at the time, and so it was therapeutic, just to get away from life for a while and here and just step back and go do something meaningful. And it was a really rewarding experience. We had a full week there, and all the materials were there for the roof. It was insane. Like, it was basically just 4 walls, and what were the dimensions of that?
I think it's 45 by 90 is what the walls are.
Yeah.
And then the trusses.
Well,
they were bigger. We had to make them bigger than that.
That's what I was getting at. I mean, it was almost like an Amish thing,
Oh yeah.
There's just a pile of wood and some fasteners, and 50 Fijian, and 6 of us, I guess, and we built trusses, like 60-foot trusses.
Over 1,000 pounds each.
A whole lot of them.
They all got. There was
2-foot
22
centers.
of them. 22 of them.
Yeah, and raised them inside of a week.
Yeah.
It was with no heavy equipment.
Yeah.
So yeah, from bare bones to construction, completion, and then sheeted it with metal inside of a week. I didn't think it was even going to get half done when I got. There's no way. Like, how are we going to pull this off? And it was 100 degrees every day, and it was just wild. But you after a couple days, you're pretty acclimated, and your 3rd-degree burns, and you're numb. But you could just jump in the ocean every day and cool off, and everybody kind of takes a break around noon and just finds some shade and then gets right back to it. But yeah, just the whole village came together and picked those trusses up, and one end at a time, just boom, 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 boom. By the end of the week, they're all standing, and the metal was going on, like the last day, I think.
3 days, because 2 days to build them.
Mm-hmm.
2 days to build the trusses, and then 3 days to put them up.
Yep.
And then the roofing was done in the last 2 days.
Yeah, like the last sheet of tin was going on the night we left.
Yeah.
Everybody got along really well and worked together. It was really a lot of camaraderie, a lot of good times. And the village took care of us, and yeah, it was great.
So they're really hard workers. They they get their subsistence off of their plantations. They call their farms, basically, and they're super, super courteous people, super nice and funny too, really funny.
They fed us, and the community ate, 3 square meals a day. And I think they catered to us quite a bit and spoiled us with all their special foods. And, you know, everything was very fresh and what they could harvest at the time. My daughter and I took a tour of, I guess it was a plantation where each of the families groups would have their own lot of land where they would go and harvest their yams or their vegetables that they wanted to eat, or their fruits. And it was a lot of fruit, a lot of coconut milk, and some fish. And 1 minute your chicken was running around and the next minute you're eating it. I felt kind of guilty. I felt like we should have, you know, what they do have, they're happy to share with you, and think nothing of it. And at times I thought, well, maybe we should get them some more chickens, because all of a sudden we came and there was a lot of chickens, and when we left there were not so many. If you reach out a little bit, it does help people. And you know, there's a lot of like in Metlakatla, they reach out and they give their elders food, or they in Kowak they do the same thing. Their sense of community and their family orientation is incredible.
I remember Dinah telling me about this, so I might have stole it a little bit from her, but it's a similar tight-knit community that you can relate to, that you understand. Like when people are in need, you gotta help. I think it helps being from Alaska, because most of us are really hard workers, you know, and that translates really well to going somewhere and doing this kind of labor, because it is, you know, a lot of hard manual labor in hot weather, so you'll be sweating. And I think it just works out really well, because, you know, not to talk smack about other people from other places, there's hard workers everywhere, but being from Alaska kind of helps you in those situations.
It was pretty cool, a lot of cool people, got to know each other really well, and everybody kind of had their own things they do. Like Carrie helped with a lot of the cooking and kids and stuff. I talked to people and got people going on helping with the project, which was cool, because first day it was kind of just us working. Everybody in the village was just like, what's going on over here? And after that, I went around and talked to a lot of people and told them what we were doing and whatnot, and made friends. And I think, was it Stino?
Yeah.
Kind of chewed people out a little bit that night, I think. And then the next day, just the whole village was in on the project. And after they knew what we were doing, we could barely get in there to help at that point. Try to pick up a board. Oh, I got this. It's like, oh man, we're helping, man.
It's kind of funny too, because in the culture there, you know, for women to be picking up wood and packing it, and we had Dinah and Carrie and Vesna, you know, we're moving all this lumber that we'd already shipped out there to start building trusses, and they start picking it up. And every time one of them picked it up, 3 guys would dive in and grab it from them, and no, we got this, and they'd take it. So it was interesting watching the cultural interaction, you know, where you have these strong independent women, and Fijian culture where the women do all the cooking and taking care of the house. And so it was fun to watch.
The first time that we went is when I realized they're not a big fan of women working, and if you could just cook, that would be awesome. And I do a lot of things. Cooking is not one of them. And so I had a hard time letting him let me work at all. And if I didn't think things were moving fast enough, Carrie, she works on the ferry. She went the first time. All we had to do was pick up a board, and anybody that wasn't doing, any of the men that weren't doing something, they're on board duty, you know. And we were just gonna pick those up, and okay.
But it was really cool to see the whole village come together, and you know, once we got everything going, they were there every day. And then the last day, or the day before we left, they wanted to have the roof done on it, and they stayed late working on it, and then they were up at like 5 in the morning because they wanted
Yeah.
to have a big meeting in the village hall and a party to say thank you and send us on our way. So that was really cool to get that done. Dinah's she's pretty incredible, and she's got a huge network, and so when she says she's going to do something, everybody goes, "Oh, I want to be a part of that," and so a lot of people jump on. Just the different people. Nate, we wanted Nate to go because Nate is just hilarious. He's always got these nice, quiet zingers that come out. You got to listen real close, but he's hilarious. He's a hard worker, but you got to bring a lot of sunblock for Nate. So
it's bad. Worst sunburns of my life every time I go down there.
Yeah. What I tell people is you're going to go experience a Fijian culture, and you're not going to get the tourist aspect of it until you actually experience the culture. And that's the nice thing about this village is they still live by subsistence. All their food, they grow right there. That's why this hurricane was so devastating. There was no vegetation on that island. It wiped it clean. It took in their houses were, half of them were probably built out of 2x4s and roofing tin. That was a house. Some of them had dirt floors. So you get 194 mile an hour winds, it goes away. And it goes away in a hurry and turns into lethal pieces of stuff flying. But then all the vegetation was stripped off. All the greenery was gone. And it was just white wood or branches. And then they had a 12-foot storm surge that came in and took away 100 yards of their beachfront and all the houses that were there too. So there was like 25 houses, and a lot of those were cinder block houses. And it's not like we build a house, we go buy all the stuff, we come out and we build it. They buy like 5 or 10 blocks, they bring them and they stack them up, and then they spend a year and they buy another 10 or 20 blocks. And it takes them a long time to get all that material because they live by subsistence. So they don't have jobs where they get a steady paycheck coming in or anything like that. The only money they make is if they take some of their crops and they go sell them. And so for them to build a higher dollar house out of concrete and cinder blocks is a major undertaking over many years. And so the 20 that were close to the shoreline were actually those types of buildings, and we found pieces of them 150 yards offshore, walls of them that had just been ripped out and pulled out into the ocean. You can still see it when you're snorkeling around down there. Be going along and see
foundations and stuff under you if you're swimming.
Yeah. People that know me know I've been going there for years, and I talk about it all the time. And then we put together a web page and some videos, and so that people could see what it was. And then as we've done the trip every year, we do frequently asked questions, and explain the culture, and there's links to everything. So it's a really nice package. We give the itinerary. It's a very detailed itinerary, and so it's really nice because obviously it's a legitimate humanitarian organization, so it's also a tax write-off. So people get to go learn about a culture, and we spend a week in the village, and people will bring, so you don't need much for clothing there. I mean, it's very warm. It's between like 80 and 92 degrees night and day, and so you need sunblock, swimsuits, and some real light stuff to keep you out of the weather. But so we go down, but we always take suitcases and as much as we can to donate. In fact, Nate one year, tell them about you did it several times, loaded up on gear for the kids.
Oh yeah, a bunch of school supplies that I just, anything I could find. Just took everything from Walmart and stuffed them in a bag and big carry-on. I think Dinah got a bunch of raincoats from Rendezvous.
Rendezvous.
At one point we hauled down there, which was
Hilarious.
Pretty funny. Kids were getting off in school one time, spilling out of the back of the truck, just a bunch of blue raincoats.
You get there and they have nothing. Like they will reuse a 2-liter plastic Coke bottle 47 times. And you're like, I wasn't prepared for how nothing was out here. As a matter of fact, on the first group, my BFF, Amy, she's from here, she worked for the Forest Service, and she was like, "I'll go, that sounds fun." And so she's very fancy, and she is always beautifully done, and has beautiful clothes, and is sparkly and smells like watermelon and stuff like that. The last day I go into the bunkhouse, and she took what she could live with for the next week. And again, we were going to nice resorts for the next week. She took out what she could live with for the next week in a backpack and left everything else. Everything else. And I mean, these women, like, they don't buy fancy stuff. Not that they don't like it, they do. But you have neither the time or the resources or the ability to buy earrings. And Amy's like, "Well, here's 7 pair." You know, it was, so then of course we all did. We were like, "Oh yeah, okay." And then the second time we went, we packed knowing that we're gonna leave all of this behind. And that makes it just everybody chipping in their thing, while at the same time, Sam is putting together, here's this giant project that we're gonna do. But then each person is like, "You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna bring this for kids, or I'm gonna bring toothbrushes, or, you know, stuff like that." And so there's all these side projects that are just heartfelt to each person.
They love getting anything because it's such a remote island. There's only one flight in a week, and they don't use it. When the typhoon hit, it wiped out the village. And the Fijian government at that time said, "Oh, climate change, anybody builds down here on this lower level near the water, we'll give you money, but if it happens again, you don't get any." And so a lot of the people started building up on the hills, and it separated the village. And they only gave them $7,500 Fijian to build a house. So it's not much, and the best they could come up with the partial materials to build a 2x4 and tin house. And they were calling it a red zone. And it's not a red zone. That was the lower village. And with the foundations that were there and the walls that were still structurally solid, that's where I decided I had to do something and help them out. So, but what that did is it separated the village, and there was no central hall, because the hall is really the heart of the village, and everything that happens in that village, if it's a group thing, it happens in the village hall. Meetings, weddings, death, the women making mats, they can be in there when it's raining or when it's sunny and it's hot. They don't have to be out on the grass. Any big event, in fact, now, and even then, at that time, 98, that village hall was the largest village hall in Fiji. And so that was the pride of that village and of that island. And so when it got destroyed, the roof was gone, all the windows were blown out, and the doors were gone. That really gutted the village. And so to put that back together and give them the ability to have a place for the village to come together again was huge. And so it pulled the village back together. Not only that, but we put in solar power.
Sam told me the second time we were going to put up solar panels. I didn't know he meant 1 million of them. And we put them on the town hall, on the roof that we had built the time before. And there's no lifts or anything, like we're the lifts. And each one is put down by hand, you run the wire, and if you don't have something, that's too bad. You either make it or you figure it out, because there's no getting anything that's not already there.
Now they have lights in there. So not only can they be in there during the day and use it, but at night they can get together and they don't have to have flashlights or anything like that. There's lights in the village hall. On top of that, they had a couple of refrigerators and freezers, and so now they keep those in the village hall so that they have a place and power to run it. And then this last year I bought a Starlink, and so that's part of the nonprofit, is we pay for the internet, because everybody had a cell phone, but the tower on the island was so bad that I actually hiked up the mountain and checked out the place. The doors were kicked in, the generators were burned up, and it was barely functioning. And so these people would pay for, $30 a month for their cell service, but maybe get a couple days out of it. And so it was, there was a lot of money being spent for not the ability to communicate. So by putting the Starlink in the village hall and just leaving it open, they could all come in there and they could use WhatsApp and Messenger to talk to their relatives and everything else. So another way it pulled the whole village together. In fact, it got to a point where they were camping out in the village hall. And so they had to have a discussion about, okay, at this time, we're gonna, everybody's gotta go back to their houses. So anyway, that's part of that, trying not to change the culture too much, but also allowing them to communicate with their relatives on other islands and everything without being gouged by the cell phone companies. Now they have power, they have lights, and they have internet in the village at no cost to the village. So just recently they had a bishop show up on the island. I saw that. He came to Nacamaki because of the facilities they have there. They were able to have a gathering there, and there's power, and they have their church bazaar now there because everybody can plug in and have their little booths and everything at the village hall. So the whole island comes and has events there now, which is kind of nice.
Mm-hmm. There's about 20 communities on the island,
roughly? About 13 to 15.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The first trip we got the roof on the hall, and but it wasn't really finished, when we left. So coming back, seeing it all buttoned up, and the new doors and the different decorations, and it was kind of buttoned up, and the solar system was really awesome to see that, and that's part of the thing we worked on, was getting the inverters and the rest of the batteries hooked up, and some of the houses were rebuilt that were just basically foundations when I was there the first time. And I brought my son with me, so that was really cool for him to see a different way of life, and third world kind of landscape, so it was a real eye-opener for him. He loved it. He didn't want to leave. He still, at least once a week, he talks about it, and it was just for him to see, society that basically doesn't have any of the modern creature comforts that we're used to, and everybody was real content, and that was what I was hoping he would take home from that, and he did, and it was great.
When we go there, there's a sevu ceremony where you're accepted into the village. You're eating Fijian food. You're doing a lovo, where they cook all the food in the ground wrapped in banana leaves, which is fabulous. And then you're drinking kava, and it's not for everybody, but it's part of their culture. It's a huge part of their culture. And every night they want you to just have a few bowls with them. So
I love kava. It's like a tea that they get from a root of the kava plant, and they dry it on their roofs, on their tin roofs, and then bring it to the pounding bowls, and they pound it into a powder. And I got to help some of the young guys pound some kava like at 11:30 at night, because for some reason the kava keeps me up. It's like drinking super zippy coffee, and they're like, "Jesse, kava's supposed to make you sleepy." I know, it just gives me energy, so it's funny.
It's their version of sitting around and just chatting. They'll be singing, and then they'll talk for a while, and then they'll do a bowl. And the way that the kava ceremony is, everybody gets a bowl, and then it's done and talk and sing, and then a while later they'll do it again. And the evening just goes on and on like that. And and you can bow out anytime, and you don't have to. There's obviously a bowl of kava, but then we've also incorporated low tide, which is just a little bit in the bottom, so you can still be part of the ceremony, but you don't have to drink a lot of it. And then there's high tide, which is a full bowl. And then with Josh Stuckey, he invented the tsunami bowl, which they had to bring in a bigger bowl. So they thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah, it's good. Everybody yelling at tsunami.
No, there was no tsunamis. There was was that term coined while we were there?
Yeah.
The tsunami.
You did it.
Yeah, I don't know how much I want to talk about that. Lots of kava. So yeah, there's you get your kava cup when you're having a what do they call that? That's kava.
Sevu, or
yeah.
just sitting around in the evening.
So you kind of call out what you want, how much you want at a time, and I don't remember exactly how that came about, but that became the term for a really full kava cup. So we just started. Anytime you wanted a big cup, you just said tsunami,
which I'd never had before.
No, that was kind of a new thing there.
What are some of your favorite things about this village?
Favorite things about this village? It's got all the things the natural beauty that I personally would like. It's far away from the hustle and bustle of the city. So the effect is not, it's rather minimal, so to speak. You got sandy white beaches. And of course, the relations with my fellow villagers, because I'm from here, it's healthy for me in a big way. Spiritually and emotionally, I'm at rest. Being a fellow villager for the village of Nacamaki.
So that's a big part. The draw for this is you get to go and experience authentic Fijian culture. It's not a village visit where you go from a resort up and it's all put on. This is how they live. And at the end of the week, they always throw a big meke, which is a celebration, and they dress in traditional Fijian garb, and they do dances. The young girls and boys do theirs, and the women do theirs, and then the men do theirs as well. And so it's always really fun to have that, and then everybody says goodbye and off we go. So we've been there for a week, and then we go to a resort for a week. And so everybody gets hot running water again, and they can go get their massages and do whatever they want to do. And there's all kinds of excursions. There's inner tubing and zip lining, everything you would expect in a tropical paradise, but at a much more reasonable price than anything you could get in Hawaii or anything like that. It's the dollar goes a long way in Fiji. So, and the people are just fantastic. They're just amazing people. So yeah, it's always fun to do the island and then come back and be in civilization again and have all the amenities, but still be able to talk about it and enjoy the rest of Fiji and see, what everybody else gets to see as tourists. When we did get off the island and we finally made it to Suva and got to the hotel, it was like, they really appreciated the hotel. And one night we stay at the Grand Pacific Hotel, which is a really, really cool and unique thing. It's right downtown Suva. That's when we come off the island. We go to the Grand Pacific. We spend one night there. And the Grand Pacific was built in, I believe it was 1912, by a shipping company out of Australia. and they have refurbished it and then added 2 wings onto it. But it's where the Queen used to stay, and royalty would stay in Fiji when they went there. So, and it's right across from all the government buildings and the museum and everything else. So we spend a day there. Everybody can, get cleaned up and go run around town and see the fancy Capitol and go to the Museum of History and everything else. And then at night we go over and we have a dinner on a floating restaurant out in the middle of the harbor, which is really fun. Huge boat, or it's like probably 150-foot boat that they've just, the top of it is just a big dining hall. And so you sit there and you're looking out across the water, and so we do dinner there and then go back, either have fun on the boat or go back and hang out at the hotel. And then the next day we take a private bus, 20-passenger bus, to the next hotel, which is up the beach. And we did go to the Hideaway, but then last year we tried out this place called the Pearl South Pacific, which was fantastic. And I think we're going to be using that one now. We also stopped by the turtle farm, and everybody gets to check out little baby turtles before they release them. So little fun side trip there.
They're the same way in the resorts and, everywhere you go. And then when you tell me you were out, what you were doing in Nacamaki, they're immediately, somebody's related to somebody, and there's just this huge connection taking place. And you're like, oh, this is all weird about you, and so that was kind of neat. It was a little kind of celebrity status when, after it was all said and done. So that was kind of cool. They're really cool people.
I believe Sam has taken over all the equipment and everything to get a dive facility ready. And so then he's going to take some time and go and teach. He's a master instructor. And so he's going to go and train some of the people that want to do it, to become dive instructors and dive masters, and start a dive shop for the guys. And so they can have a little bit of tourism and a little bit of diving.
I think people in Southeast Alaska are made for it. Like the remoteness and the not having something and figuring out something else to get the job finished. We do that here. It felt a whole lot more like families helping communities than us helping an organization to help a community. And I think that resonates with Southeast people. I think that's how we live.
What I'm trying to provide is a unique experience for people that want to experience another culture in its authentic form, and to have an adventure that you couldn't get anywhere else. I mean, you can go on tours, you can pay somebody to guide you through stuff, but this here is really taking you deep into the Fijian culture and getting to know people, their culture, and make an impact on people's lives, and have a lot of fun while you're doing it. So, and I mean, they're still talking to them on Facebook and everything else. So, they're friendships that you make, and for me, I've been going there since '98. So I used to carry around little kids on my shoulder. Now I'm carrying their kids around on my shoulder. And it's really something to have that kind of a connection over that long a time, and still want to go back. That I think for me is the big thing is, it's still a place that is so unique in this world that you would want to go back and show it to other people so that they can experience it.
I don't think there's very many people that go and aren't like, I want to do this for the rest of my life. Like, I would do this every 2 years for the rest of my life, because it's making such a huge difference at the end of the week. Yep.
If you go to hardrockhousing.com, there's a donation page there, and you can donate any amount you want. We just 100% of all donations go to this. There is no administrative anything like that.